Graz, let's start with the good. Who got it good yesterday?
Dallas Cowboys. I know everybody thinks the Cowboys are going to stink because they didn't sign any free agents, but if they can somehow manage their way through the first half of the season, the second half sets up great. 6 of their last 9 games are at home. That stretch of 9 games includes both of their games against the Commanders, one of their games against the Giants. It looks like a soft finish to the season for the Dallas Cowboys again, assuming they get through the first half of it okay.
All right, we're always going to take we're always looking at the Cowboys here. Do you think so many people writing them off? Do you think that bodes well for them? Does that put them in the
the first thing is they could be out of the playoff discussion by the time we get to the last few games. And then some of those home games, you have the Philadelphia Eagles, you have the Cincinnati Bengals, and the Houston Texans, who we expect to be one of the best teams in the entire NFL. And so we have to look at what the Dallas Cowboys didn't do this offseason and the way that other teams improved. It's not just about playing teams at home. It's about playing teams at home that you're good enough to beat, and we don't know if the Dallas Cowboys are that.
Very quickly, Cowboys better or worse than they were a year ago?
I mean, listen, right now, I think they're a worse team.
Worse?
Yeah, I think they got to replace a couple pieces on the offensive line. Who's playing running back? And then on defense, can they stop the run? They haven't shown it yet.
This team won the East last year.
Right.
They are not going to win the East this year. That's a worse team, and they probably won't make the playoffs if you ask me.
And Graziano knows that no one ever repeats in that division.
Exactly.
I've missed that, Dan. I haven't seen you in 2 weeks. I haven't heard anyone say it. So they got the good, the bad, the ugly. Graziano, who got that was the good. Who's the bad? Who got it bad?
The Miami Dolphins got a tough break at the beginning. If you're the Dolphins, you want people coming to your place and playing in the heat in September when it's still hot down there and it's not hot elsewhere. In their first 7 games, they only have one home afternoon day game, and it's against the Jaguars, who also play in the heat. They play at home against the Bills in week 2, that's a night game. Home against the Titans in week 4, that's a night game. They don't have a second home afternoon game until week 8 against the Cardinals. That's October 27th. Yeah, it might still be hot in Florida at that point, but A, the Cardinals also play in the heat, and B, it starts to get a little bit nicer in South Florida around that time of year.
You played in that division, D. Wood. How real is that factor?
Oh, it's real. Yep. It's real. Like, even though you're coming off training camp, there's nothing like that humidity down in South Beach. I remember they used to have the AC blasting when you're in the locker room. You go out there on the field, you're literally melting. So for them to not have those home games early, that's a big deal for them.
I mean, let's be real. The worst part to me was as soon as you put your lotion on after the shower to go to the game, you were sweating through your suit. That's exactly what that humidity does. And so when you think about some of these teams that don't play in that heat, that don't play in that humidity, not only is it a factor during the game, it's something that you talk about all week. They tell you about hydration. They tell you about rest. They tell you about nutrition.
It's kind of like Denver.
Yes, it absolutely plays into the way the entire week goes.
Absolutely. And they also got road games in the Northeast late in their season, including finishing up at the Jets.
Tua is great when it's cold, right?
Well, I mean, generally he hasn't been, although he hasn't been. All right, Graz, that was the good and the bad. What was the ugly?
The Steelers' second half is brutal.
Yeah.
Brutal. All 6 of their division games are in the last 8 weeks of the season. Yeah. And the 2 that aren't are at Philadelphia and home to Kansas City. They have 3 short weeks over the second half of the season. You look at this. They go at Cleveland 4 days after playing Baltimore. They got a short week there to go at Baltimore, and then they got another short week to play on Christmas against the Chiefs. This is going to be a real test of Mike Tomlin's ability to lug the team into the playoffs, as he seems to be able to do every December.
Greeny, I'm going to make this real plain, and RC knows this. Just start from week 11 on. Week 11 on, it is literally a gauntlet for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like, they playing every team from week 11 on is like a playoff team. It's going to be a challenge for the Steelers.
What did they do to deserve this, RC?
Who made this schedule?
Like, unfair.
Hey, somebody at Park Avenue, they really hating on the Steelers.
What dude from Cleveland all of a sudden got a job in the league office? To think that you have to play the Ravens twice, the Bengals, the Cleveland Browns, and then the Eagles and the Chiefs, right? A team that won the Super Bowl 2 years in a row. Look at a team that was in the Super Bowl a year before. You have to play those teams to finish the season when the end of the season is where we've seen the Steelers find ways to compete. It's the beginning of the season when they suck, right? Coach Tomlin has a saying, I try to make things as uncomfortable as possible. Guess what, my dog? You ain't got to try hard this year because the NFL did it for you. And when you look at the schedule, it's always about, okay, what are our primetime games? After I figure out what our primetime games are, I want to know what teams do I play late in the season first, because it'd be cold as hell in the AFC North.
Yep.
Secondly, you want to see how good those teams are. And when you look at this schedule, you normally go down the list and you go, win, even, win. You never say loss when you're in Pittsburgh because we don't expect that, Green. We got the New York Jets.
Right.
And then, but when they get to the end of this season, there are going to be some question marks in the heads of these guys leading up to that schedule. And so the pressure is going to be on this team early in the season when you're still trying to find out who your starting quarterback is. This is a very difficult thing for Coach Tomlin, and this could be a decision after a conversation after the season if he continues coaching there.
Say that again.
Well, I did this the last time.
I know.
Right? And America got mad at me and said I was telling Coach Tomlin he should be fired. Coach Tomlin's not going to be fired. There's still a love affair, and his voice resonates so loudly in that locker room. I trained a guy, and he came to me and he said, man, I never knew what it was like to play for Coach Tomlin until I played for Coach Tomlin. Everything he says to us on Wednesday happens. Everything he says about the way they're going to attack us happens. And when we do what he says, we win. But it's going to be difficult to do that. And it's going to be a team that's based on winning Lombardi trophies that hasn't won a Lombardi trophy since Ryan Clark was actually hitting people in the mouth. And so when you think about this team, is Omar Khan and Mike Tomlin going to have a conversation when the season ends if they aren't a playoff team?
Listen, we always talk about Thanksgiving. You want to be playing your best ball, right?
Yeah.
Well, damn it, you better be playing your
better
best
be.
ball.
Yeah.
Because this schedule right here, woo.
A reunion roundup is our next stop. Week 5, Josh Allen and the Bills will see their old teammate Stephon Diggs and the Texans.